This program is paid for by Innovative Medical Associates. All opinions or statements expressed on the program are solely those of Innovative Medical Associates or their guests and do not reflect the opinions of WPHT or Odyssey.
Talk Radio 1210 WPHT, WPHT HD, WOGL HD3 Philadelphia. Now, Health Watch, featuring Dr. Molly FANTASIA, the PhD doctor and founder of Innovative Medical Associates, with valuable information that could help you improve your quality of life. Now, Health Watch.
Good morning. It's time to get healthy.
It's a beautiful day today, too.
That's right. It's a beautiful day and a beautiful day to get healthy. It's Health Watch every Sunday, 8 till 9 here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. I'm your host, John DeMasi, with, as you heard, the one and only Dr. Molly FANTASIA, the PhD doctor, the executive director, and the founder of Innovative Medical Associates. We talk about the who, what, when, where, why, and how of Innovative Medical, why it's different, and how it can help you. And as always, we're open here in the studio with some open lines on our phones, 855-839-1210. 855-839-1210 is the number. Dr. Molly is here and ready to talk to you, and you're always ready to talk health
yes,
and
I am,
natural
John.
health.
Sure, why not?
What's Innovative Medical about, and why do you feel that it's beneficial to everyone?
Sure, John. I think the most important thing to say is that we are a group of like-minded, cooperating healthcare providers. And when I say like-minded, we all want to make sure that the patient is taken care of in a very informed way. We want to make sure that our patient knows lots of their options. So we're just like any other primary care facility in that manner. In other words, if you go in for some advice, you're going to get it. But if you need a prescription med, we're going to give it to you. That's not a problem. But our philosophy is a little different in that we want to use the least amount of prescription med necessary to effectuate the medical change you need and augment that with natural substances that we deliver through hydration therapy.
In your opinion, what types of conditions work best with your therapies and as opposed to conventional medicine?
Well, I think one of the first things I want to assure everybody out there is that we're not going to tell you to throw away your conventional medication. I mean, that just wouldn't be smart. What we would like to do is work with you with your particular challenge, whether it's a mild challenge like, IBS, something like that. It's not mild to the patient, but something that you see every day in a primary care facility. And or if it's as complicated as a cancer diagnosis, what we want to do is work with the patient, utilizing, if they want to utilize their natural substances that can work with their pharmaceuticals. That's where we're experts at this point.
So you work together.
We try.
With their physicians
right,
or whatever
right.
it is.
And we want to do that. And the bottom line is we tend to have pretty good results. In particular, when we look at some of our protocols, and I have many of them, and I'm lucky enough to have skilled providers who really help me deliver those protocols under their direction. And I've got to say that we tend to have pretty good outcomes for patients. Again, we're not curing cancer. We're not always curing these chronic conditions, but we sure are improving their quality of life.
You're very modest when you said I have a few protocols. I believe you have over 600 and some protocols.
We do. Variations of the themes, yes.
So
yes.
There is a likelihood that whatever you have a protocol for that.
Sure. And the thing is, the other thing I want to stress is that we're never going to tell our patients to stop conventional therapy. For example, I had a really interesting case this week where the daughter of a patient that we're seeing who has breast cancer, who's 91 years old.
Oh, geez.
91 years old. And she came in, and she has 2 nurses in her family. And they think I'm discouraging her from getting this nodule out. This is the second nodule that the woman's had in 8 or 9 years. Well, I'm not doing that. I'm saying let's tune her up a little bit. Let's get her stronger than you can be at 91. By the way, she's pretty good, right? She has all her faculties. She knows what she wants. Our job is to help her maintain a quality of life and it's her decision to either take out the particular nodule or growth or whatever it is and decide what to do from there. And I feel like we do that well.
In a lot of cases, you're boosting the immune system.
Correct. Well, and we're actually improving patients' quality of life, regardless of what course of treatment they choose conventionally.
Now, how many, and I always ask this question because people want to know this, but it's kind of a vague thing.
Sure.
How many treatments can you expect to get till you effectuate the change?
Well, here's the deal. It's like this. Depending on when you come in to see me and what the underlying conditions are and what the comorbidities are, it depends. It can be as short as 5 weeks to 15 weeks. But again, it's going to depend on the individual patient, what they're looking to accomplish and what we're looking to accomplish for them, and where they are in their own health continuum. That is really important. I hate it when people come into me and whatever their condition they've had, let's say rheumatoid conditions for the past 25 years. Now they've decided to come in rather than when it was first diagnosed, right? I hate it when people have neurodegenerative conditions like MS that's been diagnosed 10 years ago, and now you're faced with going into a wheelchair. And, this is not holy water.
Yeah.
It won't,
They come in too late,
correct,
is what you're saying.
Correct. Come in earlier and outcome can be achieved at an earlier rate and a better rate. So the bottom line is, again, just like I think any good primary care doc would say, you've got to do the routine things to make sure that you're in decent health. Right? You want to come in, you get a diagnosis, you don't just roll over and say, oh, I'm going to live with this till I can't anymore. No, come in and get proactive.
The later they come, the harder it is, correct?
Exactly.
So you want them to come in early.
Correct.
But then again, it's human nature.
Right.
They procrastinate,
right.
And then they procrastinate.
But there are so many things we can help you with. When you look at the neurodegenerative diseases, we can talk about lots of involvement of natural substances that are taken orally that can help slow the progression of some of these diseases. Why wouldn't you want to come in and at least chat about stuff like this?
What's the biggest question when you have an initial consultation? Because people are really, they're like all over the place.
Right.
What is the biggest question that you have to answer?
There's no hope for my condition. And no hope for my condition, right? I've been diagnosed with cancer and there's no hope. I've been diagnosed with MS and there's no hope it's going to progress. Yeah, okay, all of those things may be true, but it doesn't mean it has to progress at a rate that makes your life intolerable.
So I guess when they come in, they're probably freaking out.
Correct. Correct.
So they don't think there's any hope.
Right.
But you do. I mean, I've seen you. You have literally worked miracles.
I haven't, but the good Lord definitely has. And he's given us a lot of God's ingredients here that can help us through a myriad of issues if we apply them properly and in a therapeutic level and at a protocol that is unique to the patient and the condition.
Are there any side effects to the nutraceuticals?
Sure there can be. You can have an allergy to something, right? You can have low blood sugar. But in 27 years, I can tell you that we've seen minor side effects, and when they have occurred, I don't know if you watched, we're fully equipped.
Oh,
and
yeah.
boy,
Yes.
we bring
Yes.
a patient to feeling a little better pretty quickly.
Well, I've been there 20 years and I haven't had any side
Thank
effects.
God. Thank God.
So-
And I thank God. Let's not spit in the wind, as my dad would say. So
Let's not jinx it, yeah.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying, John. Sure there can be side effects. And of course, we're trying to be very responsible about that. And the other thing is, maybe this therapy isn't for everyone. If you can't tolerate fluids, then we're not going to put you in the chair, obviously. So again, it depends on the patient and the condition and where they are in their continuum.
Is cancer, the treatments that you have for cancer, are they really, are they effective?
They're effective to improve your quality of life. As I said before, we are not curing cancer, but if you go on PubMed, you will see there's a ton of research and interest in natural substances, you know this from vitamin C, vitamin K, vitamin A in certain instances, there is a ton of research going on as to why people who do some of these treatments tend to outlive what is considered the conventional lifespan of a patient with a particular problem.
We are coming up on our first break of the morning. Boy, time flies when you're having fun. It's Health Watch here every Sunday, 8 till 9, here the live version on Talk Radio 1210, WPHT. Dr. Molly Fantasia is here, the PhD doctor, the executive director, and the founder of Innovative Medical Associates, located in Marlton, New Jersey. And I always say this at this point of the show, call early so we can be sure that we can spend time with you and take your call and try to help you out. 855-839-1210 is the number here in the studio, 855-839-1210. With Dr. Molly Fantasia, I'm your host, John DeMasi. We will return. More Health Watch after these words. As always, operators are standing by at Innovative Medical Associates. And we have that because we know that some people are bashful to talk on the radio. So you want to talk to the operators, go right ahead. The number is 856-489-0505. That's 856-489-0505. It is Innovative Medical Associates, Marlton, New Jersey. And when you call, the thing you really want to do is make an appointment with Dr. Molly to sit down for the initial consultation, which is complimentary, so it doesn't cost you anything. And you can find out a lot about your condition, about how Dr. Molly can potentially help you with your problem. 856-489-0505. And the website, innovativemedicalassociates.com, innovativemedicalassociates.com. It is Health Watch, Sundays 8 till 9 here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. The number here in the studio, 855-839-1210. We're going to talk a little about, a lot of issues here with GI and the gut and all of that.
Right.
I mean, I didn't realize that the gut really controls a lot.
Hey, John, now don't you ever get a gut feeling?
Yeah.
Don't you ever think, I just have a gut feeling about this issue? Well, where does that originate? Yes. Okay. So the thing is, if you look back in the annals of medicine, and we go back to the father of medicine, Hippocrates, he says all disease begins in the gut. That idea has been echoed through the ages. GI function contributes so much to the overall aspects of general health. People don't realize this. And lately, we're seeing more and more physicians, traditional physicians, who actually do buy into the gut-brain axis. It's long known, it's acknowledged that there's an intricate communication mechanism that goes on between the digestive system and the brain. The gut has a dedicated nervous system, the vagus nerve. We've heard that before. I'm sure people know about it. The vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve actually provides feedback systems to heart, lungs, almost the entire GI tract. They're connected. When you think about the vagal system, it really works with the limbic system. So what we have is the limbic system that works with areas in the hypothalamus. So you can see there's glandular implications, and an area of the brain involved in memory and emotion. So it travels through the neck, down the chest, the abdominal, and particularly affects the organs of the digestive system. So you can see this is a large venous, this is a large nervous communication highway, right?
It's fascinating,
It
really.
is. It really is. And it can create mental and emotional issues that occur between the gut and the digestive tract, which is one of the reasons GI guys know that many times people come in and they're having like Crohn's or irritable bowel, and it can go all the way from sort of mild symptoms to really severe symptoms. And I've treated patients generally with the severe system problems. So we know that many of the neurotransmitters act directly on the gut-brain axis, including things like dopamine, epinephrine, norepinephrine. And believe it or not, John, large amounts of serotonin actually are produced in the gut. And serotonin does what? Keeps us out of depression. It's a very important neurotransmitter. Interestingly enough, many of my patients who come in from Indiana have low serotonin levels. And I've been compiling the statistics. 94% of them have gut problems.
And why is that?
Bad diet. Bad diet. They eat a lot of noodles. They eat a lot of They have
a lot of starchy things.
A lot of starchy things, and so they actually have malnutrition, which they don't believe. They don't believe because they don't look malnourished. And I start thinking about this overall. And I said, it's interesting. In a place like America where we have, quote unquote, food abundance, we're hearing more and more about food insecurity. We're hearing more and more about the American diet. And I would say that these folks really have a very unique diet, and it really affects their serotonin levels. And I actually do send out the laboratory. I run a serotonin level on each and every one of them when they come up in order to show that, so that by the time they leave me, we see that after, maybe 2 weeks here, we start to see that serotonin level go up with the right neuroamino acids delivered through hydration.
Do they change their diet?
Well, we try to let them change their diet, but like most of us, they don't always change their diet accordingly. And that's part and parcel of the entire issue with gut problems. I was speaking a few weeks ago at the LDN conference, and in the LDN conference, and I use LDN as part of my hydration protocol for most gut issues. And interestingly enough, I got a call, and I actually met several GI physicians at this conference. And after I spoke, they said, Dr. Molly, it looks like you were using this 5-6 years ago. I said, I was. Once I started to see how it fits on these receptors, and I realized that the gut has a lot of these receptors, I realized that it had a place in with our nutritional program. And he said, so do you just, does your doctor just prescribe the LDN? And I said, no, because it's not enough. We actually have to do a form of hydration therapy to rebuild all of the vitamin deficiencies that I find with people who come in with Crohn's, IBS, and irritable bowel, slow motility, these kinds of things, and diarrhea. So he said, that's very interesting. He said, what do you think your success rate is to keep people out? I said, well, I can tell you that I have a patient right now who started with me about 6 years ago, and he managed to do exceedingly well. And I have many patients who do very well by following a change of diet after a course of the hydration therapy.
So the hydration is key in all of this.
Right. And what I'm saying is, this is just one thing. I mean, people don't realize you can have malabsorption and not even know it, because what happens is you're seeing that you have malabsorption in various things. Like you can have malabsorption in the fats you eat. You can have malabsorption even in the protein. That's one of the things with milk. When we hear that these kids have an allergy to milk, well, actually, they have a form of malabsorption of the protein in milk. So this is extremely important. And we also have to look at things like the microbiome, which is the collection of organisms found primarily in the large intestine. And finally, I would say we should look at our entire immune system vis-a-vis the gut, because 70% of our entire immune system resides in the gut. Consists of guts-associated lymphs. We have a lot of lymphatics there. So it's interesting to me because that's another issue I look at with my cancer patients. I wonder how many had digestive issues prior to really being diagnosed with certain gut-related cancers.
How do you know, let's say you have a stomach problem.
Yeah.
How do you know what it is do you help the
Well,
patient? Do you,
we
test or what?
Yeah, sure. And one of the things I would say is, obviously, if you're having this kind of problems, you're having some digestive problems, you're feeling like you're having indigestion, you're feeling like you have some discomfort, bloating, gas, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, this kinds of things, and fatty stools, you start to realize that you look like what? You're losing weight. You have muscle wasting, maybe you're getting frequent infections. So we have to take a very good history. I want to know what's been going on for you before you came in to see us. And one of the things we find then is we do some testing. And there are traditional testing that can be done to look at gut health. That looks at gut health. So one of the things we might want to do is a breath test. Have you heard about that for H. pylori? Of course. There are lots of different blood tests that can be done, looking for the inflammation from certain others. There are other testing that can be done. And what we want to do is look at that and say, okay, what is contributing to this person's gut problem? And then we can actually look at what do we put in their hydration protocol.
That's the key.
There's the key. For example, we know that vitamin A, many times, people are low in vitamin A. And you wouldn't think that's a big deal. Well, it's a big deal with your night vision. I'm going to tell you that, right? So we look at that kind of thing. You may be low in your B vitamins. I just had a case this week where a gentleman was rushed to the hospital. His friend came in to tell me, by the way, the friend is a patient here, and he also works in my facility. He's like I wouldn't call him the handyman. He's really the guy that really is responsible for us, keeping us going with all of the things that need to be done.
Yes.
You know, John, and he's going to let me speak about him. But it's an interesting thing. His friend said, I'm having a stroke. My eyelids are just twitching and twitching and twitching. And I said to him, John, I think, he could be having a stroke because he had one before, so he must go to the hospital. John goes, he called him and said, you got to go to the hospital. After John comes back and tells me, I said, he also could be having a B vitamin deficiency. John came back a day later and said, guess what? They discharged him from the hospital. He was having a B vitamin deficiency. But, these are the things. So I am never going to tell you not to go seek out traditional medical help. But I am saying there are certain things that can contribute to having this malabsorption, even regularly in your life.
Okay, we are coming up on our halfway point of the show. Boy, again, time flies when you're having fun. It's the halfway point, which means you still have time to jump in here with a question or a thought for Dr. Molly or a medical challenge that you're having. 855-839-1210. That's 855-839-1210. Our show is Health Watch, Sundays 8 till 9 here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT with Dr. Molly Fantasia, the PhD doctor, the executive director, and the founder of Innovative Medical Associates. I'm your host, John DeMasi. We're coming back with more of today's discussion on Health Watch after these words. We are back here on Health Watch, and as always, operators standing by at Innovative Medical Associates, and their number, 856-489-0505. You can call now, but you can call later. That's the number for Innovative Medical Associates all the time, 856-489-0505. And when you call, the best thing you can do for yourself and your problem or your condition is to make an appointment with Dr. Molly, and it is complimentary. You sit down and you talk to her about your problem and your condition, and she will see if she can help you or not. And that's really the benefit of the initial consultation. 856-489-0505. And the website, innovativemedicalassociates.com. Innovativemedicalassociates.com is the website. And our show is Health Watch every Sunday, 8 till 9 here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. Our number here in the studio, 855-839-1210. That's 855-839-1210. Dr. Molly, you said something interesting before the show we were talking, and you said signaling is the problem. 70% of the immune system resides in the gut.
Yes.
70%?
Yes, 70. They just came out with that statistic. If folks will go on PubMed, they'll see several studies showing that the immune system is very heavily regulated by what's going on in the gut. And if you think about this, in the short term, malabsorption causes the gastrointestinal distress. So, for example, short term, I mean, you have a stomach flu, right? And the malabsorption disorders can last a long time after you've had the stomach problem. It's very interesting, the stomach flu. People think it's nothing. Well, no. Of course, we're talking about macronutrients. They're the ones you eat, right? So the proteins, the carbs, and the fats, right, that we eat when we're eating our dinner, lunch, and whatever. But it's the micronutrients that are in those things, by the way, that are also adulterated today with everything else we have in them. Think about this. The micronutrients is what's really, really affected by this problem in the small intestines. So we know that damage to the lining in the small intestine is so important for all immune. And how do we know this? Because they've done the studies with the biopsies on the lining of the intestines. And most GI people really know that enzymes are produced there. So we're big on telling people to use enzymes during the day with their meals. People, we've lost the ability, and our gut has lost the ability to actually promote the use of our own enzymes. So you need to help it along. The other thing is, you got to realize that all of the stuff I'm talking about, it's the pancreas, liver, and gallbladder all work together with the small intestine to break down the food so that you get the micronutrients. How many people have I had who come in with what? Liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Why is that happening? Okay, is it a genetic issue, or is it an environmental issue, or is it all of it? And it's probably all of it today. And I would say those people really have big problems with the micronutrients that they take in. Is it any wonder that when they start their cancer treatments, they're so low in their micronutrients like A, B, iron? It's just unbelievable. So you start there, and you then add the chemotherapy, the radiation. Is it any wonder these folks look terrible?
Yeah,
right?
That's
here,
true.
One of the things I like to say to our patients is we're not just using antioxidants. You've heard me say this forever with the cancer patients, but we're using other things in that hydration protocol so we don't affect the chemotherapeutics or the immunotherapies that you're getting in your cancer support. We're really using things that can help promote the micronutrients you need to help you feel better, not just giving you the anti-inflammatories. That's very important.
Now, you've often said hydration is important.
Oh, yes.
Not only in this, but in other conditions.
Right.
But why is that?
Well, because most people come in and they're totally dehydrated. Without the right fluid balance in our gut, you don't move your food around. How many people do I have who come in with low motility, which means from the time they eat to the time they get rid of the waste in their gut is too long. What happens then? It's in the gut. It's in the small intestine. It's actually developing more and more toxins that are going through the gut. If you have a leaky gut, which has to do with the communication I spoke about earlier, and what happens is that then it does what? Inflammation. And what's inflammation in a situation like that? Bad, very bad.
You've always said inflammation is bad.
Is the devil. It can be the devil. So, I've treated a lot of Crohn's patients, a lot of ulcerative colitis, all the inflammatory conditions, and the autoimmune like celiac. And invariably, when they get some hydration, utilizing the proper micronutrients, which are the vitamins, the minerals, they tend to do better. And I think overuse of medications in this country has also contributed to this. Absolutely. And we find that overuse of alcohol.
Oh, that's a
no
a killer.
question, no question. And the production of overgrowth, of bacterial overgrowth in the small intestine. And I had a patient just recently who came in with a diagnosis of something called SIBO, SIBO. It's the overgrowth of intestinal bacteria. And here we go again. When Dr. Molly talks about things being just right, you need enough of the probiotics we need to digest the food, not too much of the bad to overcome the good. So you need a combination. It has to be just right, or you're going to end up with a problem in your small intestine. And we see that. And this person had an actual diagnosis from her GI guy that this was her problem. So obviously, we're looking at promoting her with some oral supplements in addition to the hydration, and using them in combination and getting the patient through this problem.
Now, you were talking about dietary issues.
Sure.
When you have the hydration, does that take the place of your dietary issues, or do you have to change your diet?
Well, sometimes it can help you. Yes, it can help. It can take the place of in some patients. Listen, I had a patient this week who's looking at getting a J-tube, which is a feeding tube, temporary feeding tube. Traditionalists have been using this for years. What do they give you in there? They give you the proteins, they give you the fats, they give you what you need to break down to the micronutrients. They're not giving you the micronutrients to that. Our hydration gives you the micronutrients that are actually needed for this cellular function. So, yeah, we've got to help you change your diet, of course. Yes, we're going to help you with the LDN, of course. We're going to help in any way we can. But I would say to you, like everything else, we have to look at the patient in a holistic manner, John. It isn't just one thing. It's like taking our hydration therapy and saying, oh, go out and just go to the spa and get vitamin C. Actually, I was watching this weekend. I happened to walk through a well-known casino, and they had a spa right in the window.
Yeah, they did. I saw that too.
Oh, you did see
Yeah.
it, right? And
Yeah.
I'm watching the girl mix this with black gloves on, by the way. She had black gloves. I don't know if they were latex or not, right in the window. And I'm thinking to myself, well, now that particular modality costs that patient $25 more than it would in my clinic, and I know they're getting more in ours. So I just had to laugh and say, okay, so we've really got to treat the patient as a whole, John.
So these micronutrients that
Yes.
you mentioned,
Yes.
that you might not get elsewhere, you're giving them to the patient, and they are
Exactly.
vital
They
to this
are.
condition.
They certainly are. And again, I'm saying this is the kind of condition that you go around with. You don't even know that you have it. You're walking around and you say to yourself, well, I'm losing weight. I have frequent infections. I have dry hair and hair loss. Hair loss, that's a biggie. That's a biggie. Why are you losing your hair? Well, sure, there could be genetic component to that, of course. We know male pattern, baldness, those kinds of things. But also, you know what? I would run a panel of B vitamins and see if we're missing some of the micronutrients and the cofactors. What about vitamin D? Vitamin D. Very important. If you can't digest the protein in milk, are you getting your vitamin D? Probably not. You're getting out in the sun? Okay, but you're not doing enough. The micronutrients that the body breaks down, that the good Lord gave us this beautiful instrument, our body. But if it's in a state of dysregulation, you have a whole lot of problems, John.
And so your hydration
Can
gets
help.
it to regulate it.
We hope that is really the key. We have to see if you have a food intolerance. I mean, this is not, I'm trying to make this as simple as possible, but it isn't a simple kind of thing. You really have to look at all the nutritional supplements that a patient is taking. You need to see, look at their food intolerance, or do they know what's lacking? You've got to look and see if they are taking enzymatics. You've got to look at all of this. You've got to get the history, and you've got to say, okay, how can I help this person with their GI issues? So GI issues can be simple, but they can also be complex.
Yeah, more often than not, they're complex.
You bet. You bet.
We are coming up on our final break of the morning, which means you still have time to get in here with a question or a comment for Dr. Molly. 855-839-1210 is the number. 855-839-1210. Dr. Molly Fantasia is here, the PhD doctor, the executive director, and the founder of Innovative Medical Associates, located in Marlton, New Jersey. I'm your host, John DeMasi. We both return with more of today's edition of Health Watch after these words. We are back here on Health Watch, and again, operators are standing by right now at Innovative Medical Associates, and they will be there well after we leave you at 9 o'clock. In fact, they're not going to the beach today. They're working. 856-489-0505. 856-489-0505 is the number. And the website, innovativemedicalassociates.com. Check that out. A lot of good information on there. innovativemedicalassociates.com. And a reminder, if you missed any of today's show, if you want to, or you just want to hear it again, we are having our Health Watch replay this afternoon, 4 until 5, right here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. Couple of minutes left of the show. 855-839-1210 is the number here. 855-839-1210. You still can get in and call Dr. Molly with a medical challenge or whatever your problem happens to be. Dr. Molly, we're going to talk about low serotonin.
Yeah, the low serotonin levels I was talking about earlier in the show from my patients who come in from Indiana a great deal because of their diet and their food intolerances. So they actually have a high sugar diet, I would say, carbs, sugar, love baked goods. They make all these pies and everything. You know the drill. Yeah. And they're very, they follow a very strict regimen. So in a case like that, when we look at their low serotonin, I need to look at that in its totality as malabsorption syndrome. Now, it seems to be, for the most part, a simple case of malabsorption. In other words, if we're able to deliver them the right neuroamino acids, the right vitamins and minerals through our hydration protocol, we help elevate their serotonin. We also are not opposed to putting them on an antidepressant if they're having the symptoms of depression, that kind of thing. One of the things I would say is that treating the underlying cause of the malabsorption can be more complicated if it's a chronic kind of condition than if it's simple. If we know it's dietary, we're going to help them change the diet, give them what they need, and send them on their way. And that seems to be really what's working here. One of the things I find interesting is many times physicians, at least out there, not here because we're in the best area in the world, they get put on anti-anxieties. They're just put on anti-anxieties for low serotonin, not antidepressants, anti-anxieties. Why? They believe all their problems are related to stress. Well, I think stress is a component to their malabsorption that then requires that their micronutrients are low.
So this sounds like ring around the rosy.
Not only is it ring around the rosy, it's not good because in the end they have a dependency on what? The anti-anxiety, the benzoids, which are terrible drugs to help get them off of.
And you wouldn't recommend that?
No. So that's one of the things we see. The other thing I think that is a little more complicated is the cancer patients. When we see that the cancer patients, maybe they have pancreatic cancer, well, they're going to have malabsorption, right? Because the pancreas is an integral part of what we have. If they have pancreatic insufficiency, you have to have you have to have the enzymes replaced, and the way that we do that is vis-a-vis oral and the hydration. So we really need to look at that. I had a case of a patient who had appendix cancer. You know her.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
She's with me now, I guess, about 7 years, right? Doing very well, no reoccurrence, thank God. But when I spoke to her at great length, I found out that she had chronic constipation. She always had the bloating. She had lots of GI problems. And you wonder, did that GI problem contribute to her cancer? Nobody knows. I mean, but it's a pretty rare condition, right?
Does it happen this way, that the cancer patients, because they can't eat, then develop the digestive problems?
Of course, that can happen, but many times they have the digestive problems before they know they even have the cancer. They tend to have pancreatic insufficiency, gallbladder diseases, and liver disease. And until they get to the doctor, this is one of the things I say is so important to go to your primary, to come in and say, I'm having problems with my GI tract, what's going on? Get the proper tests that are necessary to make a diagnosis, and then move forward with whatever you need, a combination of maybe some medication. But I urge people to come in and get some digestive hydration as well.
And again, hydration is the key here.
It's a key because, again, we're able to deliver the micronutrients that the body needs to what? Improve your own immune system, improve the communication between your immune system, between the various systems of the organs, and hopefully keep you out of more trouble.
I know you wanted to talk about your patient, Lisa.
She's in the hospital.
Been with you for a long time.
Yeah.
What's the situation?
And so right now she's in the hospital. She's been diagnosed with slow motility, which I don't find unusual because, again, she had a GI cancer as well as another cancer. So second bout, she's getting out. And I really believe, and she said to the doctor, I want to get back to my hydration. He said, it's okay. That's right. You should get back.
What is slow motility?
It's when we eat, as I spoke about earlier, it's when we eat and it takes more time to digest our food than normal.
And why is that?
Could be having a problem with inflammation in the intestine. Remember, Hippocrates says all disease starts in the intestine.
What's the prognosis for Lisa?
She's going to be fine, hopefully. She's coming back to me this week.
And
I'm hoping that we can start a regimen not only to address the underlying cancer with our antioxidants and pro-oxidants, but to also help her nutritionally get her back so she has a little more stamina, etc.
Any other patients you wanted to talk about?
I think I can talk a little bit about our patient Sandy, who has the severe rheumatoid issues. She's now on a particular product for bone for her osteoporosis, which, by the way, she got the osteoporosis while being treated for the rheumatoid from all of the rheumatoid drugs. Here's the thing. People get treated with these steroids for a long period of time. Short-term course of steroids are mostly needed, but when people have to go back in, whether it's for digestive problems or rheumatoid, and have to take these steroids for long periods of time, there's a lot of complications with them, and people have to realize that really they need to get in to see somebody and help them maintain their nutritional status.
And Sandy's prognosis?
No, she's moving forward. She's got a great rheumatoid person, and we're working hand in hand. And, she's been my patient for a very long time.
The whole thing, I guess the theme of today's show is no matter what the situation, you can help with hydration.
Improve your quality of life. Improve your quality of life, and that is our entire mission statement. It doesn't matter. Your immune system, your quality of life is as important as the diagnosis. Once you have that and you know this is the traditional path you want to go on, and you don't want to necessarily suffer all the ramifications of the traditional drugs, I do not tell you to get off of those drugs. We want to improve your quality of life and work hand in hand with whatever course of treatment the patient decides.
Well, I can speak for myself. You've improved my quality of life many times.
I'm hopeful, John. I'm very hopeful, and I thank God for your good health, continued good health. And remember, I don't want anyone to suffer with the idea that there's no hope. There's always hope. As long as we have faith, we have hope.
And that's a good way to end the show. That's going to put the wraps on another edition of Health Watch. Don't forget, operators are standing by right now at Innovative Medical, and they will be there well after we leave you at 9 o'clock. I was joking that they don't go to the beach. Well, they don't. They're going to be at the phones. 856-489-0505, 856-489-0505 is the number. The website, innovativemedicalassociates.com. innovativemedicalassociates.com. And don't forget, if you missed any of today's show, you can catch it this afternoon, the Health Watch replay from 4 until 5 p.m. For Dr. Molly Fantasia and everyone at Innovative Medical Associates, the lovely Linda, and our nursing staff, Barbara, Lana, Donna and Vicky, and of course there's Joanne and Fabulous Fran, Delightful D, and our medical assistant Sandra. I'm your host, John DeMasi. Thanks for listening. Have yourself a great week. We'll do it all over again next Sunday, Health Watch, 8 till 9, here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. You take care.
This program is paid for by Innovative Medical Associates. All opinions or statements expressed on the program are solely those of Innovative Medical Associates or their guests and do not reflect the opinions of WPHT or Odyssey.